Sure. So this is a part-time job for me. So in all actuality, I don't have the hours in the day to read through the whole book first. So I'm kind of, seeing it as it unfolds like a reader would. For a nonfiction book, I will typically just go ahead and record as I'm reading. For a fiction book, when I'm thinking about character voices and things like that, I'll typically preview just the chapter that I'm working on to see, because there have been some times where I've gone ahead and I've voiced a character, and then the last line of the whole chapter, it says something about, he said in his British accent, and I'm like, oh, and then I have to just scrap it all and go back. So I've learned the hard way that I do have to do some, for fiction books, when I'm thinking about voices, I do have to do some sort of previewing in advance. Or, if the character has a line and then after the line, it has the description of how the line was said, it's important for me to see that, to know that first, otherwise I have to go back and edit. Not a big deal, but I typically tend to just peruse. See, are there new characters? Are there new voices I have to think about? What's happening in this scene? What am I thinking this voice is going to sound like? Jot down some notes, and then I'll just do that chapter typically.
Hey everyone, welcome back to Living the Next Chapter. I have someone who speaks for a living on the side. Joining me today, we're going to talk about audiobooks. If you're an author and you're like, I want my book read by a professional who sounds great and makes my book stand out from all the other audiobooks in the world, you just found her. Danielle Fliller is here with me today. We're going to be talking about her amazing background and what she does to help authors. And we have a mutual friend, Jane, who had her book voiced by Danielle. And you should go check that out for sure, and definitely buy that and support both Jane and Danielle. Danielle, welcome to Living the Next Chapter. Great to have you here.
Thank you. Thank you so much. I'm so happy to be here.
It's exciting to have a voice over actor on the show. This is quite unique for me. I'm a huge fan of audiobooks and love your work as well. So exciting to have you here.
Thank you. Thank you. Yeah, I think audiobooks have really exploded within the past, 5 or so years. And I think they are much more accessible given everybody's busy schedules in this day and age, right? You're in the car a lot, you're on the train a lot. And an audiobook is just much more accessible for people and for authors to share their work with more people.
Awesome. So, okay, when did you decide that this is something that you wanted to pursue, and what was like the early steps? Take me back to those days and how this all started for you.
Yeah, so it's a pretty relatively new journey for me, given other people in the voiceover industry, and it started really organically. I just heard about it, got interested. I started listening to some podcasts, watching some YouTube videos, and I thought, let me give it a shot. I bought a really cheap microphone, had really cheap setup, and I just started. And, I think as a voiceover artist, the more you do, the better you get, as with anything. And so it's been a really, really fun journey. I'm doing audiobook narrations, but I'm also doing commercial voiceover work for television ads and radio ads. And so it's been a character voices for cartoons. So it's been a really, really fun experience.
Okay. Well, you just opened up like a whole bunch of conversation there. Is there anything that we'd be familiar with that people would be like, oh my gosh, that's Danielle? Is there anything?
No, I wish. Okay, I hope I can get to that point. Right. That is my goal. That is definitely my goal. But, I've been doing little podcast voices here and there, cartoon voices, radio commercials in other states. So who even knows if they used them? I don't know. But it's been such a cool journey.
Okay, so I do have a request. I know people have been reaching out to me because I have podcasts and saying, Dave, I need a voiceover actor to do intros, outros, that kind of stuff. Is that something that people can reach out to you and you can help them with that?
Yes, 1,000%. Yes,
right.
yes.
Here, that's a home run right there. That's
done
amazing.
And done. Thank you. Yes,
awesome.
Definitely.
So we're all the contact information for all my podcast buddies out there going, sweet, I've just found my person. Yes, you have. You found the best person right here.
Thank
This
you.
is great, Danielle. So yeah, definitely check the show notes. Make sure you click and go there now. Do not wait. Do not pause. Run. Um, fill up your inbox with requests for that. That's amazing.
Thank you. Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
So, all right. So for a new voiceover actor thinking about getting into the business, any suggestions for somebody listening? They're like, hey, I can do this. I'd love to pick Danielle's brain. How do we start with this?
Yeah. So I think that people think voiceover is easier than it is. People think it's just reading words on a page, but it's not. It's more than that, right? It's definitely acting, and especially with audiobook narration, it's definitely telling the story, not just reading the words. So I think as much as you can, do some work first on that. If you want to sign up for classes or just watch for YouTube videos, listen to voiceover podcasts to really start thinking about honing the craft before you go and spend money on a microphone, a booth, et cetera, et cetera. Because really it starts with the voice. That is the central aspect. Everything else is easy, but that takes the most work there.
Okay, so when we mentioned Jane many times, and she's listening. Hi, Jane.
Hi, Jane.
An author reaches out to you. Mm-hmm. First of all, how did she find you?
So I am on a lot of different freelance voiceover platforms. Okay. So Jane and I connected on a platform called Fiverr, Fiverr, which is a freelance platform for all different things, not just voiceover, graphic design, etc. So we connected. I don't know what she typed in the search bar for me to pop up, but I did. And so she sent me a sample of, like the first chapter of her book. I recorded it for her, and she told me that my voice reminded her of the voice that was in her head while she was writing the book. So done and done.
Done and done.
And then we started the journey together, and it's been so great because I've done a decent amount of audiobooks so far in this voiceover journey of mine. But Jane is the first author that I've connected with outside of the recording. Typically it's the author will send me the book, I'll record it, send it to them, and we're done here. But Jane and I connected on social media. She was sharing things from me, I was sharing things from her. And so it was a really nice relationship that we have created.
And we'll take everybody back in time, back to when Jane was on the show. And I was mentioning to her that I would love for her to have a podcast. And I said, you know what? Your first guest has to be Danielle. And she's like, you're right. You're right. You're so right. She's like, because the bond between you as a voice actor and the author, I think that is so cool. And the fact that she said the exact same thing about you, that as soon as she heard your voice, it was like her character came alive in front of her. And I'm like, wow. So that's kind of cool that she has you on her show as well as your first guest.
Yes.
Talk a little bit about that.
I don't think it's available yet.
Okay.
On podcast platforms, but it's going to be called Jane the Author. And she's going to be meeting with people every week to discuss a book in more depth. And so for us, we discussed the book that I voiced for her, Goddess of Rain. And it was really cool. And she was asking me questions that I hadn't thought about yet. Like, what do you think of this character? Where do you think the story's going? And so it was cool for me to reflect on the book as a reader also of it. And so that was really exciting.
Nice. Okay. Let's take some practical steps about how this all works.
Sure.
behind the scenes. An author reaches out to you. You guys are all done. You're all agreed. You're ready to go. You start recording. What is your first step? Are you like reading the entire novel, X number of words, front to back to get context? And then, I don't know, I'm just guessing. I have no idea how you do this. And then there's multiple voices and characters in this book, and you're voicing them all. Like, that's a lot of work. So can you unpack a little bit of how you do what you do?
Sure. So this is a part-time job for me. So in all actuality, I don't have the hours in the day to read through the whole book first. So I'm kind of, seeing it as it unfolds like a reader would. For a nonfiction book, I will typically just go ahead and record as I'm reading. For a fiction book, when I'm thinking about character voices and things like that, I'll typically preview just the chapter that I'm working on to see, because there have been some times where I've gone ahead and I've voiced a character, and then at the last line of the whole chapter, it says something about, he said in his British accent. And I'm like, oh, and then I have to like just scrap it all and go back. So I've learned the hard way that I do have to do some for fiction books. When I'm thinking about voices, I do have to do some sort of previewing in advance. Or, if the character has a line and then after the line, it has the description of how the line was said, it's important for me to see that. To know that first, otherwise I have to go back and edit. Not a big deal, but I typically tend to just peruse. See, are there new characters? Are there new voices I have to think about? What's happening in this scene? What am I thinking this voice is going to sound like? Jot down some notes, and then I'll just do that chapter typically.
Okay. This sounds so unique. I love behind the scenes stuff. That makes me so happy.
But everyone does it differently. Like this is for, anything that I'm saying is just my perspective. Of course there might be people who read the whole book and that has its pros and cons as well. So
yeah, I love your approach. I love the fact that you're just doing it and exploring it as it happens. That's kind of neat. Again, like it's amazing to think of all the different voices you're going to have to come up with. What other kind of direction does an author give you in the beginning stages of recording? Do they give you any parameters at all?
So from my perspective, the more parameters an author can give me, even before we've decided if I'm the right person for this, is better. Yeah. Because sometimes I will get a message through a platform saying, I have a book, it's this many words, how much will it cost, and what's the turnaround time? And I'm like, okay, wait, whoa. First, let's see, like if I'm the right person for this book, because I may not be, and I'm okay with that. I want the author to find the best person to voice their book, right? If it's a book in like 1920s and you want a specific accent, I might not be the right person for that, and I don't want to come off like I am, and I don't want you to be disappointed with the final product if I'm not matching what you're thinking, right? So some questions I will ask will be, what's the genre? Can you give me a synopsis? Can you tell me the main characters? Can you tell me approximately how many different characters there are in general? Like you said earlier, so I can start thinking if I can do all the voices. Like for me, in Jane's book, Goddess of Rain, it was easy for me to do all of the voices because it was a fantasy book, right? So I could make the voices sound as wacky as I want, and it's okay because it's a fantasy book, right? If an author, and for me on a personal note, character voices are something that I am working on. And so for me, if an author says, it's a group of 5 ladies on their friendship journey through life, I don't know if I would be the best person for that, because I don't know if I can make 5 different female voices that are just regular voices. But if it's a fantasy and I have this one and this one's a robot and this one's a sorcerer and this one, I can make that work, right? So I think it's so important at the beginning to give as many details as you can, so both you and the voiceover artist can determine if they are the best person for this job. And then send them a sample of the book. Send them a sample and be really thoughtful about the part of the book that you are sending. If you have a lot of different voices and you want to see how they're doing them, then send them a part of the text that has those voices in it. don't just send them the first 3 pages, which is a narrator speaking or, somebody speaking. Think about if maybe there's a certain accent. A book I'm working on now has a woman with a Russian accent. So I would be really mindful to send them that and say, and see how their Russian accent is. Because not every voiceover artist is great in everything. There might be some that are, but it's really important for it to be a mutual agreement that they are the best person.
And you're saying you're doing this all on the side. This is not your full-time job.
Correct.
I'm dizzy just thinking of this because I'm not, like, it would take me a year to record a book like this. I have no idea how you're doing this. You're a superhuman.
Thank you.
Tell me, like, how are you balancing life and doing this on the side?
Yeah, so I pretty much only record in the evenings. So watching reality television has taken a back seat, and doing voiceover work has come to the forefront. And that has been a challenge sometimes, because sometimes if a company reaches out and they want me to voice a commercial, but they want to direct me over Zoom, and they're only available during the weekday daytime hours, there have been some opportunities I've had to pass over because I just couldn't make it work with my schedule. But something like an audiobook, for me is great because I can do a little bit every night. And I think also when you are working with a voiceover artist, that it will affect their timeline that they can get the book back to you. If you have a full-time voiceover artist, and nobody's going to say to you, oh, I do this full-time, I can have it quickly, or I only do this part-time. They're going to give you a turnaround time. And some reasons for the turnaround time are they doing it full-time or part-time? And what is their current workload looking like also? There have been some times where I give a turnaround time and I don't get many of the projects that I thought I'd be getting, so I can get it back to the person sooner. So that's really important to keep in mind if you're wondering why it's going to take somebody so long to do your audiobook, depending on how long it is.
Okay, I want to jump back a little bit as well. How much training did you have before you started doing all this? Did you just kind of learn as you go?
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
I did. My passion in high school and college was theater and musical theater.
Yes.
I always wanted to be on Broadway. And my mom said, well, think of something more down to earth. And I said, okay.
Yeah.
Okay, I'll do that. But so it's always been a passion of mine, and public speaking has always been a passion of mine. And, at my current job, it's my voice on the phone recording when you call the building. And so it's sort of voiceover work has sort of snuck into my life in different ways.
So this is really an off-Broadway project.
Yes.
There you go.
Off
Broadway. Yes. I love it. Amazing. Okay. So like for Jane's book, again, we keep saying, hi, Jane.
Yes.
For Jane's book, how long was the recording process for that in particular?
A few weeks, I think.
Oh, wow.
I think it was a few weeks, and I think the final product ended up being about 8 hours, give or take. Thinking too that when you are booking a voiceover artist, their rate of pay is going to be based on per finished hour. PFH is the abbreviation.
Okay.
So thinking of when somebody gives you a rate, that is per finished hour of the final product. And for authors to keep in mind that it takes multiple hours to produce one finished hour of an audiobook. So depending on how proficient your voiceover artist is, could be 2 hours, could be 3 hours per finished hour of the audiobook.
Yeah. So I know in podcasting, we'd say it's a 4-to-1 ratio. So an hour podcast takes 4 hours to do all the work behind the scenes and have it out the door. So that's kind of our number we use. So, all right. That's interesting. All right. That's faster than I was expecting. I was expecting months. Because I guess that'd be one thing from a author's point of view is they have a date when they want to launch their book. They want to have a date when their audiobook, they would love to have it in the world. So a longer runway for when they're doing the initial reach out would be good.
Yeah, I think the more time you can give somebody, the better. And then also you need to leave room for revisions. So not every voiceover artist is perfect. Maybe as you listen back, there's a word that's repeated, or they, did a line multiple times and forgot to take out, the messed up line or whatever. So you need to allow yourself time to listen to it, to ask them for revisions and to allow for that process. So the earlier you can start this process, the better, because you don't know what's going to happen.
Okay, so along the lines of the process and all the stuff that happens behind the scenes, what am I not asking you that an author needs to know when reaching out to a voiceover actor?
So I think determining which platform you want to reach out on is important.
Yep.
So there's a variety of different platforms. When you're thinking about Audible, the website Audible, know that Audible is owned by Amazon.
Yep.
So Amazon has Audible. On the back end, Audible is known as ACX. Okay. And I don't know what the letters stand for, but when you find a voiceover artist, they are going to refer to things. So the ACX standards are like the industry standards for audiobook narration. Okay. So you might see them say, I'll produce it to ACX standards. And that's what you want. You want typical production value for audiobooks. You can find voiceover artists on ACX directly.
Oh.
And when you do that, they record it and they upload it directly to ACX Audible. Then you pay them offline, like through PayPal or whatever payment app you want to use. They confirm that they've received the payment. And then ACX starts processing the book.
Oh, okay, good.
There's pros and cons, right, for every platform. And I think a pro is that on ACX, you post your book, you post a sample of it, and audiobook narrators will come on and just audition for your book right there on ACX. You get the auditions, you look, you message them, you book them. It's all in the platform.
Sure.
I would say the con of that is that you may not have as wide of a reach on ACX directly because it's such a niche platform. It's only for audiobooks, right? Whereas if you go on to Fiverr, you're going to have voiceover artists, or Upwork or anything like that. You'll have voiceover artists that do many, many, many things. So you'll have a wider reach potentially of voiceover artists there. However, on Fiverr or Upwork or whatever other freelance platform you're thinking of, you have to do the legwork to find a person.
Yeah.
And then you have to do the legwork of uploading the files to ACX.
Okay.
So there's pros and cons. It's not rocket science to upload the files to ACX. I don't want to scare anyone. It is, you hit upload and it goes. It is not challenging, but it is something to think about. I have had authors where I've started with them on ACX directly, and then over time we've moved off of the platform to just our own exchanges. So that is something to think about also. If you are a new author and maybe looking on Fiverr or Upwork is overwhelming, which it is, there's a lot of people to choose from. You might feel more comfortable just starting off on ACX directly just to get your toes in the water there.
Okay, so while we're on the topic, how do people connect with you? We're not done by any means. People don't think the podcast is over. I just want people to connect with you. What is the easiest way to find you? Should they go through Fiverr and look for you there, or do they contact you directly through the podcast to you? Like, how does that work?
Yeah. I mean, either way is fine. I will always say contact me directly, because if I send you to Fiverr, then you're going to see all the other thousands and thousands of choices.
We don't want that. You have the best person here, right here. You found her. Don't go elsewhere.
Right. Yeah. So Instagram, email is the best place to reach me directly. However, I do have links for all of my profiles on other sites as well.
So that feels safe. Okay. So we're going to have all those links.
All the options. Thank you, Dave. I appreciate that.
Don't go anywhere else. Stop it.
I so appreciate that.
Come right to Danielle. You come right to Danielle, straight to Danielle. Do not pass. Go. Yes. Go right to her. Okay. What else does a new author need to think about? What kind of things are helpful to you on your side of the microphone that just make things easier in the relationship strong between you and the author? I love your relationship with Jane. I just think that's a win.
Yeah.
How do we go from being clients to having that kind of connection? What is it for you that really makes that real?
Yeah, I think once I sent her the sample, and she was so appreciative of the sample and so happy, and that I was like, okay, like this is gonna be great, like because oftentimes if somebody will send me a book, I'll send them the recording. There's no further communication, right? They accept the recording, never hear from them again, which is okay, right? It's fine. I'm not looking for BFFs everywhere I go, but to have somebody who was so lovely and so appreciative. Yeah. And then I'm trying to think how that and it progressed. I think I had asked her if I could say that I was recording the book on my Instagram account. I said, do I have your permission to say I'm currently recording this book? And she said, absolutely. And then she told me her Instagram so I could tag her. And that's how we started. So social media really is what pushed our relationship to the next level. And I always ask authors before I do it, because I don't know if it's a secret project or, I want to be really respectful. But I think it's really nice because then as I was going through the recording, I was posting things and tagging Jean. She was posting things and tagging me. Now that the book is out, again, we're still doing that, right? She was on your podcast talking about me, tagging me. I'm on your podcast talking about her, right? So it's just been a really, really nice relationship. And I think, from an author's perspective, think about what your non-negotiables are and what your negotiables are in terms of your final audio recording, because you have written these words, it formulated in your brain, the words have been written, and now they're going through my brain or another voiceover actor's brain and coming out, and it most likely will be different. And so think about what, like Jane had said when she was on your podcast, that the voice I did for Zoe, the main character, was spot on. But the voices I did for the other characters were completely different than what she had envisioned, but she was okay with that. Mm-hmm. And so I think it's really important. Do you have a non-negotiable voice, a non-negotiable accent, or can you let them use their creativity to run with that? No two people's brains are the same. So you can't expect that it will come out exactly as it was in your brain. And for some parts of it, you have to be okay with that. You have to be okay with another creative person, putting their own spin on your work.
Yeah, because if I recorded a book for someone, you're going to get a Canadian accent. It's natural by default. So you're going to hear my aboots instead of about, and you're going to hear my sorries and all that because I'm Canadian. I can't shut that off. It kind of in me, right? So, yeah, you have to really kind of think about what is a no-go and what's flexible. That's smart. It's really, really smart. Yeah. So, yeah, again, on top of doing audiobooks, you're also doing other things. Mm-hmm. So what is the most fun thing for you to do when this pops up in your email and someone reaches out and asks you to do this thing? You're like, oh, I love doing these. Is there something that you really enjoy doing?
I do love commercials, and I do love standalone character voices, like for a podcast or a cartoon or something, because they're like quick and easy and fun. And I love like the quirky, zany characters where I can just be wacky and there's like no restrictions. That's what I love. And I love commercials that are like short and upbeat. And that's definitely where my comfort level is, which is ironic that I do audiobooks too, because they are the complete opposite.
All right, yeah.
But there's a podcast that I listen to for voiceover work, and the person says, put yourself out in all of these niches, in the audiobooks, in the podcasts, in the character voices, in the commercials. He says, and the market will tell you what you're the best for, right? So the market has told me that I'm the best for audiobooks. And I'm trying to push the market to say, hey, but how about also commercials?
Yeah.
How about also cartoons?
Yeah.
So it's just fun. It's fun to have a variety of different projects at any one time. It really, it's my in my regular job, it's not so much creative, and this gives me a nice creative outlet.
Nice. So what's future plans for you as far out as you can see? What are you hoping to do next? Like,
yeah, I would just love to, keep working in voiceover and get my name out there and, have people excited to work with me, maybe like know me by name. That would be so cool. But for now, I'm just enjoying, day to day and the projects that I have to work on.
well, I hope our conversation helps to that end, and people will be reaching out just hearing you. I think it's great to connect with somebody through one of these great platforms where there's many voices that you can work with. But when you can connect with a person on a personal level and go, no, this is a no-brainer. I know Danielle's going to do a great job. I'm just going to go with Danielle. So I love that.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think, it definitely can be overwhelming when you go to a platform and there's thousands of people, right? And keeping in mind too, that the order of the people is based on some algorithm in the system, right? Yeah. Based on the number of projects they've done or how long they've been on the platform. So that might not necessarily be the best person for you. I don't think I was one of the first people that popped up in Jane's search results. I don't know. I should ask her. And she might have had to scroll through a few pages. Yeah. And I think it's easy to be susceptible to what the picture looks like. Right? Is the image catchy? Because that's all you have to go by. But do your work. Maybe scroll to the last few pages and give a new voiceover artist a try. Give them a break because it's easy to get lost in this sea of voiceover artists when you're on the 12th page of the search results. Yeah. So that's what I think also.
And I know authors are always looking for reviews of their books online through Amazon or wherever they buy them. People purchase the books because it does help people kind of get past that. Will this book be great or not? But for you as well, I guess getting reviews does help you from an author's perspective to make sure that they do that for you on those platforms.
Mm-hmm. Yes. I'm sure that plays into the mysterious algorithms somehow. How, I don't know.
Yeah, I have no idea.
It's not for me to know.
No, you're not meant to know that. Yeah. Well, anything else, Danielle, that we haven't really touched on that you're like, we're probably missing this out of our conversation today around working with an author, the whole process of recording? Is there anything that's like, you're like, I would love to touch on this as well?
No, I think we covered everything that I was hoping to share today. Thank you so much for giving me this opportunity to come on here. This has been awesome.
I love it. Okay, so I have one more question for you, but before that, yes. I do this on purpose because some people check out when they hear this part. So listen, if you're gonna miss something, if you check out now, Danielle, where do people connect with you? Where are you most active? And what is the steps to reach out to you with my next project, big or small? I need a pro, and you're here, and you're the one. What do I do to find you and connect?
Thank you. So the most direct way would be email, voicedaniellef@gmail.com. On social media, I'm on Instagram, Voice Danielle.
Awesome. Perfect. Okay. One question maybe for new voiceover actors getting into the game. Can you tell us a little bit about what you're using to record and Are you doing your own editing, or are you giving it to somebody to do for you? Can you give us a little insight?
I am. Yeah. So I am using one of the cheapest microphones you can find on Amazon. I think it was about $100. It's a USB microphone. It's the Audio-Technica 2020. Plugs in with a USB right into my laptop. My fiance built my home recording studio out of PVC pipes and audio blankets in the basement. And
Nice.
so I think if you're starting as a voiceover artist, you don't want to spend a lot of money because you don't know if you're going to make a lot of money. So, start with the basic things. And like I said earlier, hone your craft. And as your business, because this is a business, as your business becomes more profitable, you can start upgrading things here and there. What was your other question?
Just about the recording process. Like, are you giving this to somebody to edit, or are you doing it yourself?
No. So that's another thing too. If you're getting into voiceover, you also have to learn how to edit and produce. How did I do that? I'm not sure I remember how to do that. I'm using a free DAW, digital audio workspace called Audacity. It is free to download. Do you use that too?
I use it too. I love it. Yeah.
It is simple. It is user friendly. There's a lot of things on there. I have no idea what they do, but I know what I need. Yeah. And I do that. YouTube videos, watching how to edit. But now also if you want to start in voiceover and you're thinking, okay, but that I can do the speaking, but that is out of my realm, you can hire somebody to do your editing and producing. You could find somebody on Fiverr to do that. You go on to ACX, they have producers on there that you can pay to produce, but consider the funds.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
You might, I think it's worth watching some YouTube videos, figuring it out on your own, and then not having to hire somebody else. But everybody's different. That definitely is an option. But the more that you can do, the more successful your business is going to be.
It's beautiful. Excellent. And I'm so happy you said Audacity. I've been using that for music production in my past. That's what I like to do is music. And I've been using it before I knew what a podcast was. And it's to be able to take that skill set and move it to podcasting. I'm having a great time playing with it. So, I have my hand up. If you ever need help, hey, I love doing that kind of stuff. There you go. I'm not on Fiverr yet. Maybe I need to get my butt over there.
Maybe you should. So you gave me a tip and I'll give you a tip.
Okay, good.
You should get yourself on Fiverr for editing services.
I'm writing it down.
Or production services.
I'm following Danielle's advice. I'm writing it down. There, it's down. I got it. I love it.
Right? If you know how to do it and it's easy for you, that could be your side hustle in addition to all the other things you do. But
all my other 7 podcasts and everything. Yes, I think you're very, very smart, Danielle. And my wife would love if I could bring money into the house with all this time I spend in the basement.
See
that would be a good thing for my marriage.
You're welcome.
Yes, thank you for that. Your marriage therapy as well. Add that to your list. I love it. Everyone, please go check out all the information in the show notes for Danielle. Again, I love the story, connecting with Jane and the book and what you've done together. And it's kind of a full circle moment for me as a host to have you on now. And now I can share between both episodes. That's really, really cool. And again, I want to say hi to Jane. Hi, Jane. And
hi, Jane.
Just Danielle, thank you so much for making time for me and for all of us listening. And if you have a question about being a voiceover actor and you're like, I would really just love to spend a few minutes talking to somebody who's a pro, you have all the information in the show notes. If you have a commercial you need recorded for your radio station, your podcast, intro, outro, people, hello, you've been bugging me. I have the answer right here. You need help with your audiobook. Danielle's here to help you. Danielle, thank you so much for being part of my podcast.
Thank you. Thank you so much. This has been so cool. Thank you so much.
Let's fill that inbox, everybody. Here we go. You got the right person. She's right here for you, Danielle. Thank you for being part of the show.
Thank you.
Okay, well, thank you for being here on Living the Next Chapter. I hope you enjoyed this episode. We enjoyed having you. here on the podcast. Our authors are amazing. I hope you appreciate their time, their effort to make this possible. If you know an author, if you want to recommend an author, that's a good idea. Hey, if there's an author that you really would love to hear about or hear from, if you tell me, if you send me a message, you speak pipe on our website, livingthenextchapter.com, send me an email, go over to livingthenextchapter.com, send us a message. We will forward your message to that author and say, listen, you are being requested to be on Living the Next Chapter. Our audience can't wait to hear from you. You can help shape the show. Yeah, you. You could do that right now, actually. You got a minute, right? Okay, how about you do that? livingthenextchapter.com. I'll see you over there. Recommend an author. Yeah. See you. Thanks.
Mindshift Power Podcast, the podcast for teenagers and those who work with them. There's a huge problem in America today. There's a very large disconnect between teenagers and the adults who work with them. I'm looking to bridge that gap with real, raw, honest conversation, not held back by the chains of political correctness. You cannot solve a problem you do not understand. Want to understand teenagers today? Listen to this podcast. This podcast is for teens in the U.S. and Canada. To learn more, go to fatimabay.com/podcast or just look for Mindshift Power Podcast on any listening platform. I look forward to you being a faithful listener.